A reading from the Acts of the Apostles, Acts 14:5 through 18. There was an attempt in Iconium by both the Gentiles and the Jews, together with their leaders, to attack and stone Paul and Barnabas. They realized it and fled to the Lycaonian city of Lystra and Derbe, and to the surrounding countryside, where they continued to proclaim the good news. As Lystra, there was a crippled man, lame from birth, who had never walked. He listened to Paul speaking, who looked intently at him, saw that he had faith to be healed, and called out in a loud voice, "Stand up straight on your feet." He jumped up and began to walk. When the crowd saw what Paul had done, they cried out in Lycaonian, "The gods have come down to us in human form." They called Barnabas Zeus and Paul Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. And the priest of Zeus, whose temple was at the entrance to the city, brought oxen on garlands to the gates, for he, together with the people, intended to offer sacrifice. The apostles Barnabas and Paul tore their garments when they heard this, and rushed out into the crowd, shouting, "Men, why are you doing this? We are the same nature as you, human beings. We proclaim to you good news, that you should turn from these idols to the living God, who made heaven and earth and sea and all that is in them. In past generations, he allowed all Gentiles to go their own ways. Yet in bestowing his goodness, he did not leave himself without witness, for he gave you rains from the heaven and fruitful seasons, and filled you with nourishment and gladness for your hearts." Even with these words, they scarcely restrained the crowds from offering sacrifice to them. The word of the Lord. So, being a warrior for God. The other day when President Obama was in town, I drove a couple of business associates from the financial district to Back Bay. Because of road closures, I had to drive through the South End, which is where the president was about to speak. Needless to say, there were police officers on every corner. Something unusual for Boston. I noticed something different, though. Traveling a lot to New York since 9/11 on business, I see a lot of police officers around Manhattan now. They are clearly on guard and seem always to be on high alert. They're very focused on what is going on around them. On the contrary, when the officers were all over Boston 2 weeks ago, I noticed how disengaged they were. Most were looking at their cell phones, texting, or just looking around with no interest in their surroundings. They were far from being on high alert. Boston, being a warrior for God, we need to be like the police officers in New York, not Boston. And we need to be on our game, ready to serve our Lord when He calls us. We need to pay attention and be ready to respond when called upon. Unlike the Boston officers, we need to assume something is going to happen. Like what, you say? There will be a time this week when your faith will be tested, when you will be called on by God to stand up for your faith. Will you be ready and able? The test is coming. Know it is coming, and know God is counting on you. More to come. Peace.